Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. They'll be singing. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. There is singing when we all sing together. I'm the Reverend Sherry Halliday-Quans. I'm one of the ministers that serves this congregation and one of the worship leaders today. Joining me, we've got Donald as our worship associate, Pablo, as well as our special guest, Nima, and we have our AV team, and we have all of you. It wouldn't be Sunday morning without you, and I'm so glad that you could be here with us today. Here at First Unitarian, it is our mission that through spiritual connection in community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves, we open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. It is so good to be together. And if you are new or newish here, I invite you to stop by the welcome desk, help us help you get more connected, and come early next week. From 10:30 to 11:15, we do connections. How many of you all, just out of curiosity, went to a connections today? All right, a good amount of you. If 11:30 is the time that you can make it, or 11:35, we're glad that you're here. But we gather in small groups across a variety of topics, including each and every week a time for newcomers to learn more. And you are invited. Okay. I invite you to settle into your seat, to take a comfortable breath. If you came here today because you are worried about yourself or someone else, I invite you to connect with our pastoral care team. If you came here today to be renewed in hope and courage, you are in the right place. We gather now on the ancestral and contemporary land of the Seneca people, the keepers of the western door of the Haudenosaunee. And we gather now to claim this hour as sacred, as holy, just as miracles abound all around us, just as God or the sacred can be found in the faces of those who surround us. We gather to be reminded of a hope that lies beyond winning today. Donald will light our chalice, and we light a chalice as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We light a chalice like many other congregations this morning, and we light a chalice because this symbol comes to us from resistance efforts in Nazi Germany, from the attempt to illegally smuggle people out of occupied spaces and to safety. This is the symbol we light our hour of service and sacredness with. So I invite you to join in our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our second hymn, Circle Round for Freedom. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. This might be really familiar to some, new to others, so let's sing it at least 2 more times. And circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Last time. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole.
Hi, I'm Donald. I use any and all pronouns, and my mom's here today, guys. I'm so excited. Anyways, this past summer, I went to Camp Corey on Cuca Lake. I went to camp for s'mores, campfires, card games, but mostly to avoid talking about my problems, which my therapist was not fond of, but that's okay. But nobody knew me there. I could make a whole new version of myself that people hadn't known since I was 4, which I came to find out wasn't really a choice at camp. I found myself sharing my whole life story with these people that I'd met not even 2 days prior, things barely anybody knew about me. Because no matter who you were at camp, everybody there knew one thing. We were all in there together. And isn't that why we come to church? To share a community with people that we can support and will no doubt support us. I now invite you to turn to your neighbor and tell them about a time in your life when you were supported.
All right, all. It is so good to hear you sharing so openly, and I hope you'll continue to connect after the service. I want to invite our kids forward to come join me on this carpet or on the steps. Great. plenty of room up here if there's not enough room on the carpet there. Come sit with me. Hi, all. Welcome. Hi. You want to sit with me? Or there's room up here, too. Yeah. It's great to see you all. It is great to see you all. So, I'm going to tell a story about a fish. Have any of you ever had a fish? You have? Okay. What were some of the names of the fish in your life? Anyone? What was your fish's name? Martin. Great name for a fish. Calcifer? Also very cool. How about you? Rainbow. Love that. How about you? Bits? Bits. And you?
My class fish didn't have any names, but we named them all like bubbles and stuff.
Oh, okay, so this was a fish that didn't have any name. So people just call them things that were like fishy, like bubbles. So this is, thank you all, and I know there are more fish in the sea, but we're not gonna be able to name them all today. This is a story about a fish that had a name sort of like that. You know, you just name them fishy things. This fish, well, her name was Swimmy. And I've had pets like this. I had a cat named Barfy. That's a little bit different. But Swimmy swam really well, really fast, and swam faster than any of her cousins and siblings. And Swimmy was in a school of fish. And, you know, they swam together a lot. But Swimmy was a little bit different than the other fish. Fish like this, they come in all colors, but everybody in that school, they were red and orange and gold. And Swimmy was as black as a mussel shell. And Swimmy and the other fish were out one day swimming together, having fun, and a big, hungry tuna came and ate most of the fish. Have any of you had that happen? I'm so glad. Swimmy got away because Swimmy was a great swimmer, thus Swimmy's name. But as you can imagine, Swimmy was really scared and very sad. Swimmy didn't know what to do and, well, just kept swimming, exploring the ocean, continuing along and, well, seeing all sorts of things. Swimmy saw, and if any of you want to act this out with me, it would help. Saw a lobster with big claws. Swimmy saw a bed of kelp. Yeah. Swimmy saw a sea anemone, like a pink palm tree, like this. Swimmy saw a fish that looked like they were being pulled by strings. And Swimmy saw a jellyfish. And like sound works differently underwater, but Swimmy could tell just by the movement that what the jellyfish was doing was this. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So Swimmy saw all sorts of wonders out in the ocean, and the part of Swimmy that was sad didn't get smaller, but, well, Swimmy's heart got bigger. There were more things to see in the world, but Swimmy remembered this hard thing that had happened to her. And one day, Swimmy came across another school of fish, another group of all orange and red and gold fish, and said, "Hey, come swim with me." And those fish said, "No, we're scared." They swam and they stayed close to the rocks and the crags, and they said, "We don't want to be eaten." And there are big, fast fish out there, which Swimmy knew was something that could happen. So they all got together and they talked and they listened despite it being underwater. And, well, they came up with a plan. They learned to swim together, really tight. And together they looked like a big red, orange, red, gold fish with a little black eye right at the front. Together they looked like the biggest fish in the ocean. And there they went, swimming together. Other tuna and other fish would come by, but seeing this big orange fish with a black eye, they weren't eaten anymore. And that is the story of Swimmy the fish. So I invite you to rise as you head to your classrooms, and the rest of us will sing our children out.
We bless you on your your joyful jumps and your sad times too. You bless us by being you.
Aren't we all swimmy sometimes? Carrying a memory of something hard. We come into this space from a hard week for many of us. Carrying news of black men hanged from trees, of our trans beloveds being attacked in deed and word, of censorship and silencing. A world that can feel scary. I invite you into a time of prayer and meditation. In this time of balance, as we sit on the eve of the autumn equinox and the beginning of the Jewish high holidays and Rosh Hashanah, I offer this prayer from Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, ancestor of the stars and the sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us today. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of shifting light and dark. You whose arms are the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn toward one another in mercy, right relationship, and reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us to understand our interdependence, our relatedness gravitationally with all the other lives spinning around us. May we treat those relationships with care. In this space, filled with the people among us who shine like stars, in this space, filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment to be together. May our senses be awakened to the beauty of this day, this season, and this world. May we hold this love in a shared silence, feeling the breath and heartbeats of those who shine like stars all around us. Blessed be. We enter now and continue our prayer in ritual. We bring what is on our hearts, our deepest grief, our growth, or our gratitude, and we lay it on the altar of community and spirit. We honor the complexity of life within each of us, and we bring it into our shared collective. Online, you're invited to share in the chat. Here in the sanctuary, you're invited forward to light a candle, to raise your hand, to have an usher bring a candle to you, or to sit quietly bearing in love and witness for those around you. May we now witness to one another's hearts. You are now invited forward. ourselves, for each other, and for the world, is held in this community by the larger love that holds us all. Amen.
Please join in singing our musical meditation, Ubi Caritas. This is a Latin text that means where charity and love abound, God is there.
our church is and all that our church does is made possible by the time, talent, and treasure that we give to our shared mission. Members and friends support this congregation financially through recurring giving, and on Sundays we also give through our shared collection. As a part of the spiritual practice of generosity, 50 cents of every dollar given now to our offering will go to the Monroe County Library Equity Fund for Humanity and Enlightenment and their Rainbow Dialogues program. In a time of censorship and book banning, the Rainbow Dialogues connects queer life in Rochester with national issues and supports one of the largest LGBTQIA2+ archives in New York State. Using Church Center is the easiest way to give, but if you aren't set up with the app yet, you can also give by texting GIVE and the amount you would like to give to the number on the screen, or in the offering baskets that will now be passed. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
Hi. My name is Nima Samimi. I am married to your Director of Religious Education, Amanda Graff. I saw all the kids. Clearly, many of you have met her. And thanks for the applause for my wife. Isn't she wonderful? Well, I am a songwriter and a musician, and I had never written a hymn. Honestly, I don't know why I wrote this hymn. It came to me. Some songs as a songwriter you fuss over, and you go over and over the lyrics. This one came through me as if from God, which is always a blessing when that happens. And as I realized I was writing a hymn, I realized I was writing it for you all. So I was pleased when Sherry and Pablo and Amanda invited me to play it for you today. Could we have the lyrics of the song up on the teleprompter? Thank you so much. So this is the first verse. I'm going to teach it to you. First, I'll sing one verse, and then I'll invite you to sing that same verse with me twice, just until you get the melody. Good news, it's the same melody for every verse. And I'll just say one more brief thing about the song, that every verse tells you three things about me. You can see this first verse goes, "This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. Not the God who calls for hate. That is no God at all. This is a song of love for God." Tells you something about me. I'm both a Muslim and a Jew. And Muslims, we have a very direct relationship for God. If you ever read the poet Rumi, all of his poems are love poems to God directly. Not the God who calls for hate. The second part, a song for God who is love. This is about my personally held belief that I know a lot of you share. Love is the way I understand God. To me, there's no difference, and to me, love is the most powerful thing there is. When I think of God in terms of love. And the last part, not the God who calls for hate, for that is no God at all. This is me as an activist coming through, and also as a Jew. I'm just gonna cry for a second. Those of you who are Jews and those of you who are Gentiles, I think will all relate and understand that in this moment, in this very hard moment, around the world and in Palestine, as a Jew, my feeling of that this lyric sums up, not the God who calls for hate, for that is no God at all, my feeling of objection to how we mistreat each other comes through. So anyway, each verse works kind of that way. And here I go. I'm going to sing the first verse. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love, not the God who calls for hate, for that is no God at all. come in. Ready? This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love, not the God who calls for hate. That is no God at all. Very nice. One more time, same verse. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love, not the God who calls for hate. That is no God at all. Beautiful, you're fast learners. So here we go from the top. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love, not the God who calls for hate. That is no God at all. And this is a song of peace for God, a song for God who is peace, not the God who calls for war. That is no God at all. And this is a song of joy for God, a song for God who is joy, God who calls for suffering. That is no God at all. I will forgive and I will heal. My God forgives with tears of love, a God of vengeance and of blame. That is no God at all. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. This is a song of love for God, a song for God who is love. Lovely, lovely. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Nima. The song is such a gift. A gift to us, a gift to Unitarian Universalism, and as much as we are, a gift to the world. But it's a tough way to start this sermon because I start with a joke. So this joke was taught to me by one of our children here a couple weeks ago at our homecoming potluck. Did you hear about the kidnapping? All right, the people who said no, you know how a joke works. I really appreciate it. And some of you are still wiping away tears from the song, so I get that too. But did you hear about the kidnapping? Don't worry, he woke up. It takes a while, right? It takes a moment. And I don't know about you, but I think it took me a moment because kidnapping disappearing, grabbing people off the street is a part of our everyday life right now. So when I hear kidnapping, I think ICE raid. Did you hear about the kidnapping? Yeah, it happened a couple of weeks ago here in Rochester. And some of you already know this story, some of you have already lived this story, but I bring it to you now because it's being preached from Unitarian Universalist pulpits in Philadelphia and Minneapolis and probably in other places also. And I bring it to you now because members of our congregation, our wider community, were there. I bring it to you now because it is important to us here in the greater Rochester area. Did you hear about the kidnapping? A couple of weeks ago, someone who has been here legally for 25 years got snatched up by Immigration and Customs Enforcement off the lawn of a house where he was working with a team of roofers. People coming in one Border Patrol van and other unmarked cars grabbed him while at work, which meant that later his family didn't know where he was, and he didn't come home to his children that day. Like Swimmy, two other roofers were fast, and they pulled up the ladder to where they were on the roof, so that they were up on the roof, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement was down below on the ground. They were safe for the moment, but that's a pretty scary place to be, stuck knowing you're safe, but you can't move. They got in touch with Rochester Rapid Response, who got in touch with lots of people, including this congregation, and many people showed up very quickly. By the time I arrived, there were maybe 50 or 70 people who had gathered. And, well, ICE was there saying they would stay as long as they needed to for these people to come down. They would be taken. People from the ground yelled up in Spanish, "Stay strong, my brothers. We are here with you. We will be with you." And looking up at them, one of them burst into tears. And on the ground, I too burst into tears, knowing that this person maybe was moved by the solidarity shown, but most certainly was scared for his life and for what this would mean for his family. Soon, there were 200 people gathered that day, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agreed to leave. It had become too much of a spectacle. Too much sand had been thrown in the gears of tyranny, and, well, disappearing people is hard to do when you have 200 witnesses. For that day, 2 people got to go home to their family. One of the Unitarian Universalists of the dozen or so that were there told me that what brought them there on that day was that quote from Nazi Germany that starts with, "When they came for the socialists, I did not speak up, for I was not a socialist. And when they came for the trade unionists, I did not speak up, because I was not a trade unionist. And when they came for the Jews, I did not speak up, because I was not a Jew. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak." This quote from Martin Niemöller is a quote from a theologian, a part of the German establishment church, who criticized the church as well as his own actions during World War II, the feebleness with which the liberal theology of the day failed to stand up to the oppression and violence of Nazism. Martin Niemöller writes in the aftermath of World War II that theology needed to not be an abstraction, not simply ideas or intellectual freedom, but meaningful in our lived daily reality. Unitarian and Universalism comes from this same liberal theological tradition that blows open the restrictions on our freedom of thought and reason and says that we can believe more broadly. But it failed. It failed in critical moments to provide enough courage and strength when it mattered. So we take up liberation in this season, and I'll tell you that this sermon is part of a 2-part series. We gather together today to talk about collective liberation. And next week, we talk about liberation internally. So if you don't like this week, come back next week. And if you do like this week, come back next week. But we talk today about the ways in which our liberal religious tradition strives for, seeks out, and pulls from our history a tradition of liberation as well. Ours is a faith that also claims that religion is not in the world of ideas and intellectual beliefs. We say that we are a people not of creed. It doesn't matter what you say, but a people of deed. It matters what you do. A people not of creed, but of covenant, of how we are together and what our religious convictions teach us about how to treat one another. We are a people of embodiment, a people who come from a Christian tradition that says that God took form in a tiny, vulnerable baby, and proclaims that God took form in a man who was deemed heretical, a man who was deemed criminal, a man who was charged, convicted, tried, and killed because the law said that he was wrong. This theological heritage, our history, helps us to find the sacred in the everyday, to seek God and the miraculous and the holy right here and right now, to find it not only in sunsets and nature, but also in the faces of the people around us, to find it not only in the good things, breaking of bread, and the warm, fuzzy feelings of doing something powerful together, but also in places of hardship, at the hospital bed, and in the lives of those who are oppressed by our society. We draw from liberation theologies that emerged both here in the US and internationally in the middle of the 20th century. Gustavo Gutierrez, a Jesuit priest working in Peru, found liberation and God not in the pulpits and high ritual of the Catholic Church in occupied countries and places where religion allied with empire, but instead found it in small gatherings of farmers and school teachers and those whose family members were being disappeared. Gutierrez proclaims that God, in his Catholic language, that God had a preferential option for the poor, that the marginalized and oppressed were those communities where God most dwelled. Not because God wants suffering, not because God wants pain, but because that's where God breaks into history and is most powerful, where it matters. Because Gustavo Gutierrez decided he, like Niemöller, did not want a faith that did not matter. Here in this country, James Cone, writing in the context of the Black liberation movement, the Black power movement, and finding himself steeped in neoconservative theology that responded to the horrors of World War I and World War II by saying God must be wholly other. This world is deeply broken, and so God must be totally separate. Finding himself in this intellectual tradition and realizing that he understood God, he understood the divine as present in the struggles that he saw happening, that a God worth worshiping was a God that mattered, and proclaimed that in the US, as far as he was concerned, the nature, the reality of God was that God was Black. Liberation theology brings the sacred, the miraculous, the hopeful, and places it right here in the everyday struggles of those most impacted by society's ills. Our own tradition, Universalism and Unitarianism, pulls these threads of liberation together for us. Our Universalist history proclaims salvation for all, the idea that all are entitled and invited and in fact will be in heaven reconciled with the sacred, not only for a select few who are worthy, but all. As we turned into the 20th century, Universalists understood this salvation not to exist only in the next world, but here. That our religion mattered deeply in the here and the now, and that Universalism called us not only to salvation in the next life, but also to create paradise, heaven, here and now. That hell existed, but not in the next life, here, in this world, in the ways that we created trouble and oppression for one another. Our Unitarian heritage, too, draws the threads of liberation. This week, we celebrate the 200th birthday of Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, abolitionist poet, a Black woman from Philadelphia who worshiped every week at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, who must have looked around and felt the way Harriet Tubman Davis did in some of her advocacy, like a blackberry in a pail of milk. In her work, both as a suffragist and an abolitionist, she refused to give up any part of herself for the work of liberation. Pressured by abolitionists to drop her work towards women's suffrage, she said that her work as a woman was deeply important and essential in the fight for freedom and liberation from slavery. And pressured by white feminists, including our beloved Susan B. Anthony, she refused to drop the plight and suffering of Black people for women's suffrage. Each of these was deeply important. And echoing words that later would be written by Unitarian ministers and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, echoing backwards because she said it first. We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving a curse in its own soul. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper understood salvation, liberation, and what it is that we are doing when it means to cultivate a relationship with the holy as not only individual. That liberation wasn't something that each of us worked out on our own for a next life or even this life. That enlightenment, salvation, and liberation is collective. As a covenantal people, we understand and practice this daily. The liberation theologies of the mid-20th century continued into womanist theology, Black feminist theology, and queer theologies. This is part of the moral violation we feel when someone like Charlie Kirk, whose life should not have been ended in violence, is lifted up more broadly and more importantly in the eyes of some than the deaths of innocent school children. We understand a sense of sacred and holy that lives in all of us and that pools, is concentrated in the places of pain and suffering. We, as Unitarian Universalists, believe that revelation, that is to say, the truth, is not sealed, not something bound up in any one book or any one religion or any one people, that it is unfinished. It is our proclamation that liberation is unfinished until all are free, that no one is free until all of us are free. The words that echo through my heart, that call me into this covenantal courage, come from Assata Shakur and is recited often on streets, in protests, and it goes like this. I invite you to repeat after me. It is our duty to fight. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Amen. This is a chant, a call to a courage that comes from being connected to one another. a call to freedom, to liberation that lives deeply in the roots of our faith, that tells us that we are all connected and that God, the holy, the sacred, is found not only in the lives and faces of one another, but in close proximity to those that the world wants to forget, those the world hopes to disappear and to kidnap. We gather here in our community as a rehearsal, as the choir, those learning to sing a song of love and protection for those that God pulls around. We gather here in this community proclaiming a love and protection for our trans kindred, for migrants, for all those targeted by empire in this moment. May we, unlike Niemöller, find that in the end, there will be enough to convict us of a deep faith that proclaims our courage to speak, even when it doesn't come for us personally. Amen, and may it be so. I invite you to rise and join me in our closing hymn.
Our closing hymn is My Life Flows in Endless Song. We're singing a little bit of an upbeat arrangement of it, so I'll play it through one time, and then we'll sing all 3 verses. My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me glows, the songs the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm. Why to that rock I'm clinging? Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon fire, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
How can I keep from singing? Helps me, singing that is, helps me to move the air in and out of my lungs. And if you're wondering how we move air in and out of the lungs of this building, the renovation team is giving tours right after this service. You'll meet them right outside the front doors, and they'll help you figure out how it is that we're gonna stay warm in the winter. But if you're like, I really want to get sweaty right now, help us stack the chairs. Things with chairs with arms go with chairs with arms, chairs without arms go without arms, and you can leave the stacks right in the middle of the room. I invite you to join me in unison words as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the lighted truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The light of truth is not enough. It is not enough for Unitarian Universalists. Through community and commitment, may we fan the flames of love and protection so that we go out beyond these walls, take the love of this place, and love this world. I love you. Amen.